It's on our right/22 discussions coming with a Banlist discussion video today. I wanted to make this video just because I think it's important to talk about. There's cards I want to see on Banlist, and there's cards that I think that are definitely ban worthy, but I also think that at the same time, a lot of the cards I'm going to talk about probably won't be hit. But I actually have a pretty big list. I'm adding one more card to it right now because I'm actually just against this card in general. We're gonna go by color, and let's just dive straight into it. The first card that comes to mind that I think everybody should be considering is SS3 Thwarting the Dark Empire. My thoughts on this card are it's kind of fine staying at 4 because I think that the deck that plays the best is Gogeta Xeno, and I'll make an argument here in a bit that you should probably just ban that leader more than any of the cards in it. But to me, in Gogeta Xeno, it's not the most powerful Union Fusion, even though that sounds kind of absurd to say because you'll draw a card and you'll warp a battle card from your opponent, so you get a 25k double strike for 1 energy. But I think it's also a very fair and balanced card because it has unique, and I think that unique tag forces you to play like certain cards. I think it's also very easy to out. Like in the mirror, you can out it if it's in rest mode, yellow can kill it, so on and so forth. I'm going to take a tool away from that, hopefully, if I had my way, reduce that a little bit in yellow, but yellow still has lots of ways to pop it. I think it's a really strong card, but Gogeta Xeno and decks like it don't have critical generally, so it's like okay that they're giving you 2 cards for this swing, because in a lot of game states, just kind of like really depending on like what deck you're playing more over than not, that ultra aggression can hurt you, but if you're playing something like hand control, you can lose, but we'll address hand control here in a second. I think that it's just a very powerful card and a card that you should take a look at, but in my opinion, it's not a ban-worthy card. I don't think they're going to touch it either because I think that the fact they just reprinted it, it's been a really expensive card for a lot of people. They're probably going to keep it around. I also think it supports Trunks, which is a healthy thing because I don't think that Trunks is overtly broken as a deck. But I think that it's still a really powerful card and worth mentioning. Next one I'm going to talk about is the Barrier Union Fusion for Gogeta Xeno. This card I think is a ban-worthy card. First off, I just want to say that I think it's actually more powerful than the Thwarting for a lot of reasons. And at first, it's not obvious to a lot of people why I would say that it's more powerful than SS3 Thwarting, because SS3 Thwarting just does a lot. Like I said, draws cards, 25k double strike for 1 energy. It's also overwhelmable, and it'll draw you that card, like I said before, and it's gonna warp in a battle card, which is warping is really good. But the barrier guy, the guy is a very problematic card for a lot of decks. So the barrier guy gives a very unfiltered defense for your aggression. So what do I kind of mean by that? It's got barrier, so it's hard to pop. Can't respond to it with charismatic villain or other counterplays that would just like wipe it. At least with Thwarting, like you can rest it, and depending on like the effect that you're counterplaying it with, it's gonna still stick the way that it is. So that's problematic. But the most important thing is the fact that it breaks down into the smaller Goku True Fighting Spirit and the Vegeta True Fighting Spirit, or any of the other Gokus and Vegeta Xenos that you'd play in Gogeta Xeno, depending on your deck variation. But the main problem is that it plays the 1-drop True Fighting Spirits, okay? So why this is more broken, this card is technically for 2 energy, 3 different cards. Like, it's 3 different cards. It's not just that, because it has Barrier, it has Sustain, and that means also its aggression without like Final Flash or something else. You're really not negating its effects. It being a 20k is not problematic per se, but it does require you to invest the cards when you swing 15 at it, which is a discouragement because if you do swing at it and they just easy combo over it and still maintain an advantage based on their deck, it's very, very, very tough to argue that this isn't like a broken card. But the thing is with the True Fighting Spirits, it breaking down into the smaller ones promotes unhealthy future aggression in your playlines. And I'm not okay with flood effects in general. I don't think the True Fighting Spirits are overtly broken, but like depending on like what color you're playing against, like against blue, for example, and I know I play Soul Striker, right? And I'm okay with these cards being used against Soul Striker. But what I'm not okay with is that you Union Fusion, you drew a card, you get a 20k swing, you overwhelm those cards out with Trunks, you get a 15k swing, and then you break that Gogeta down, and for that 2 energy, you get 2 cards that can be 15k. With the later effect, you can, buff them to 15k swings, and then you can swing and then take your own life again if you're pushing hyper aggression on your opponent, right? And then those cards now become 25k swings, and if you negate their attacks or negate any other attacks on the board, it's gonna cost you a card at least if you haven't played another one, and that can just add up over time in a deck that's like very aggressive. A lot of people want Unique added to it. I don't think that solves the problem at all, because you just bottom deck it and then play another one, and you're just in the same scenario. It does prevent you from Unique does prevent like multiples from being on the board at the same time, and I totally see how like in some ways that's broken. But the thing for me is more than anything is that that Unique tag isn't going to solve the main issue. Is that this is a 1-for-3 card, and it's a 1-for-3 swing, and it's 1-for-3 swing with a potential minus to your opponent. So I think that card is a limit to 1 or ban-worthy card. That's the main card I take in Gogeta Xeno, because I think thwarting is, as weird as this is a very fair card, because it has Unique, and there's no way for it to get rid of itself to play another one. And that's the problem, right? Like if this card had Unique and could not like bottom deck itself to like pull out 2 other cards that are going to swing at you or could swing at you, especially like PyCon, those cards that are now swinging for like 35,000. And then there's the crit guy and then the double strike guy that they can also pull. So I think that like this is a very ban-worthy card. I think also by banning it or limiting it to 1, you'd force like the deck to like play more Union Fusion targets of other cards like the blocker and maybe like the other TP, and or if they want to make other future Gogeta design support, they can approach it from a different avenue. I think that that's a very, very good card. One card I just want outright banned, and I don't care that it's $1 now, and anyone can go get it for a playset for like $4 to $6 or $8, is Fighting Against Fate. Fighting Against Fate is a card that needs to be banned. It is a 0-cost overwhelm card that swings 25k twice. It's not acceptable in our game. This card is responsible for ending so many games at the high level. It's ridiculous. And I'm going to talk about Further Destruction, Chompa, and Kai here in a bit, as I always do. But cards like this just are degenerate beyond all belief. Because if your opponent defends perfectly, but you have an overwhelm for the turn and you've tapped out, this card can still win you the game outright. And that's not cool. Like, it's not like Scientist Fu, where you have to tap 6 energy, right? That takes an entire commitment and can die to 1 color in God Sealing. And there's lots of other avenues that you could discuss and talk about with, handling other overwhelm cards. Like, for example, Secret ID, which right now is more popular. Right now, it's more popular than Fighting Against Fate, I think, to a lot of people, because a lot of people value removal. But they value removal because of decks like Gogeta Xeno and cards like this Union Fusion card, which I would address. And I think the other problem is that like Fighting Against Fate is still 1 attack, whereas the other one is 2 attacks. It doesn't matter if I have to warp cards from your board if I can just beat you down. So I think that Fighting Against Fate as a card is definitely ban worthy. It's a free play card that is completely degenerate. It offers aggro decks, free pressure, which I'm not a fan of whatsoever. And I think it's something that definitely needs to go. Let's just get out of the way. Champa and Kai. Anything that just adds double strike for no reason on a swing shouldn't exist. I'm okay with iconic rares because they cost energy, and I'm okay with them because like they have like specific design effects that I think are super powerful, but it's going to cost you energy to use them. Okay, but turning an energy on a swing on a Kai SCR, for example, to a 50k double strike is menacingly stupid. I just don't think it should exist. Especially when like Pan, Kai, you know, all these SCRs are coming out and they're getting cheaper and more easy to play. And I just don't agree with cards like this being in the game when this is like Fighting Against Fate, right? If Pan comes down as a 40k swing, you have an energy up and you overwhelm and you play Fighting Against Fate and you have a card, if you have a Chomp in hand, that's 4 damage potentially. Minimum swing is 25. That's not including any other combo from the Fighting Against Fate. And then the stupid Kai or Pan can be buffed to double strike nonsense, and I just don't think it's healthy. I don't think it's healthy. And more games have been lost to Champa or Kai than any other card solo in the game. It's not close. It's just not close. In my opinion, both of those cards need to be banned. The next card that I want to address is Koitsukai, Mechanical Courage. This card is a degenerate floodgate that solo ruins Arrival. It should just be taken out of the game. Arrival decks are not fun. Okay? When I play Cooler Mill, this is the only card in the game that I fear. Because it's like, my deck doesn't do anything. Unless I want to lose like 50 cards in hand, it doesn't do anything. It's also not once per turn. It's not a limit 1, which means if they have multiple Koitsukais and they have the energy to do it and they're going to kill me through it anyway, I'm not warping 4 cards out of my hand, just end the game. Right? This is stupid. And card floodgates effects like this are stupid. The difference between something like this card and Topo or DMS is outable by like 900 cards in the game. Topo is counterable. This is not. You cannot interact with this card whatsoever. Okay, you have to have like some kind of removal effect from the drop area, unless you're playing like Meki Kabora or some other nonsense. This is not an interactable effect. And it promotes very unhealthy game states. And it doesn't affect just Arrival. This affects a lot of things. Your counters, your counterplays, what have you. It doesn't matter. If they play themselves afterwards, this card is solo just dumping all over your parade. So I just think this card needs to be banned. It is a cancerous card in the format. I don't think it should exist. Next is Dark Black Power Masayan. This is another card I think needs to go. This is like Koitsukai, but in the different direction. And the problem I have with this card is 15k cards that are played. Now, admittingly, most cards that are 15k or less that you're playing right now are not going to be against like they're not gonna be like off of non-keyword skills, right? Most of them come from keyword skills. So you can make an argument that DMS can stay for that reason. But my inherent problem with this card is it's shutting out very good ways to stop hand control. And believe it or not, okay, hand control is stupid. It shouldn't exist at the power level that it does, or it should require more investment that it does. Like when you played Set 2 Cell, okay, and this card existed, like DMS or whatever, or, you know, Koitsukai or whatever, right? Whatever you want to talk about. Whatever you want to talk about, okay? These hand destruction strategies required multiple pieces, things in hand, whatever. Gogeta Fusion, even though it's a banned card, right? But like it does the same thing. There's also lots of comeback ways against mass discard effects, like the cell chain, for example. That can be interrupted in a number of ways. It can be interacted with in a number of ways. It can be stopped outright by a number of effects. I'm not worried about grandioso chains like that. I think that they're good discard strategies. That card, however, DMS, outright protecting any discard deck is a stupid concept. If you play discard, right, and your whole hand is to reduce me to 0 and swing it critical until I die, with critical until I die, I don't care that they made Deborah. I don't. Get over it. DMS is a floodgate card that should have just gone a long time ago. It's prevented a lot of strategies. It's going to continue to stand in the way. And this card is literally saying certain decks that might be good or could be good that play like under DMS's effect will never be good. Period. So I think it's a card that needs to go. Moving on to green. The first card I want to talk about is Rebrand. I know I'm crapping all over hand destruction this. But Rebrand needs to be limited to 1. It just does. Yeah. It needs to be limited to 1. Like, this card is an inexcusable menace. It's completely demoralizing when you see like 3 or 4 of them in the drop area and like your opponent has like 6 or 7 energy because they're playing green deck that just plays boo, and then next turn, if you swing, you have to discard 2, and then next turn you're going to lose 2 cards anyway. It's just a completely menacing card. Green has too many hand destruction tools like this. Like the boo and topo stuff keeping you in check is like keeping aggression in check. But this card just promotes unhealthy game states. So I say get rid of it or limit it to 1. Sell the Dark Parasite. A lot of people want to talk about Cell Surge and nerfing it. I'm okay with the Dark Parasite staying at like a high level. I like Cell Surge as a deck concept, really, because I think that it's one of those things where the strategy implemented and done well is really, really powerful, but it's still very beatable. But I think if you address Koitsukai and address DMS, Cell Surge would see, and discard decks like this would see less play, or they'd have to suffer the consequence of playing through the outs and the side. So that's where I'm in line with that. I don't think Dark Parasite needs to have anything done with it. Next is Demagogue, Unison, Sorcery. Ban this card. It needs to go. The main reason why I say this card needs to be banned is because Frieza's Charismatic Villain will always be live. You're either going to get me cards by swinging at this Unison attempting to do something, and it's going to continue to get markers, and I'm going to get to Awaken, all this other stuff. Or you're going to play something and it's going to get Charismatic. So, yeah, I think it just needs to go. I really do not like that card whatsoever. Moving on to red, there's only one card on this list that I'd put, and it's the Piccolo Jr. Unison, Descendant of the King. This card needs to be banned. It is the best red Unison, and it's not close. And it's so good that it just basically deters any 2-drop Unison that's played, mained, used in any way, shape, or form. Like, there's just no reason. It's counter skill effect. If they don't ban it, they need to limit it to 1 or once per turn or something. But it shouldn't exist. This card is also one of those cards that just punishes your opponent for defending themselves. And I don't think that's a good idea, like ever. I don't think that because a counter skill is activated that you should just be able to blow up one of my cards, or every time I activate a counter skill that this happens. So I think it's a ban-worthy card. Honorable mention for green, even though I moved on to red, but honorable mention for green is Dark Brawl Unison. It's fine. It's definitely one of the best Unisons ever made and in the game, but I think it's fine. Moving on to blue, there's only one card in blue that I'd have banned, and that's Boonison. The Boo Unison needs to be banned. That card is way too powerful for what it does. Coming down with 4 markers in blue and blue getting to 4 is a joke, right? Like, if blue can't get to 4, no deck can. And this card for 4 energy is way too powerful. It's going to give you an energy back, so technically this card costs 3. It's going to draw you a card every turn. It's -1 when you attack, which just removes a card, no energy cost, as long as it doesn't have barrier, bottom decks it. It's a blocker, and it swings for 20k double strike, and after it does that, it's going to stand itself. Not to say, like, it's just a stupid card, right? That's like SCR level in a Unison. Like, it's an absolutely ridiculous card. It's literally the solo one of the most powerful cards in the game because of its effect on the game state, right? If I don't want you attacking my leader, I get to block with it. If you swing with a battle card that I don't like, I'll just bomb deck it before I block a lethal attack. Because that's 4 more markers, it's gonna be keeping my God Ceilings live, and to make that even worse, it's 20k. So swinging at it, it's going to cost you a card, which is stupid. I don't think this Unison should exist in the game anymore. It's completely and utterly destructive to the game state. But that's the only blue card I have. You could talk about Bean, but Bean's never going anywhere. Honorable mention for blue. Moving on to yellow. Kid Icarus as the leader needs to be banned. It won Worlds. And it's been the best yellow leader in the game for a while, since McFreeze has been hit. But the thing about Icarus is, and I've just resigned myself to this after Mecha Frieza was banned, there's just no reason to play any other yellow leader. None whatsoever. They won't make another yellow leader this powerful. It draws 2 cards solo every turn. It's stupid. It draws on your opponent's turn if you have cards that you drew into. Stupid. As a self-awaken effect, draws 2 when it awakens. Its awaken turn can literally draw like plus you 6 cards. So I'm not a fan of that leader whatsoever. And yellow just plays too much generic degenerate nonsense. And this leader just exploits that to the nth degree by drawing 1 trillion cards. So I think it needs to be banned. It just generates too much hand advantage. There are leaders in the game that solely lose because Icarus has 30 cards. And that's not a joke. Like the hand destruction has a hard enough time playing against this leader solely because of what the leader does. And there are counters to Icarus. Don't get me wrong. I've talked about them on the channel all the time. That's not the point. The point is that Kid Icarus will always see 30 cards. Like, the only comparable leader that's yellow, that's playable, that draws like this is Frieza. Set 1 Frieza. But unlike Icarus, it forces you to commit energy to cards that are only drawing you cards. Yeah, that leader is giving you energy back and drawing you a card for it, and it's a draw 2 leader, so I get it. You can draw a lot of cards with that too. But it's forcing you to play a card, which means that it can be countered. There's something you can do about it. If you board wipe their Frieza army cards, they can't untap their energy with those cards. They have to play new ones to draw more cards. So, like, there's a lot more of a difference there, right? And Icarus just outclasses it. So not a fan, needs to go. The next thing that needs to go, in my opinion, in yellow, and I'm just basically guttering Icarus in a lot of ways, is the Lord Slug. The one that prevents your opponent from drawing cards while it's in rest mode, bond 2. Oh, geez. For Jiminy's sakes, get this thing out of here. Please ban this card. Bandai, if you watch this video, please ban that card. It's degenerate. It's just degenerate. Like, a 20k barrier card that just super combos are dead. Like, other draw effects are dead. Like, your leader's it. Like, that's all you get. Combo over this and spend cards only for me to play another one next turn, and you still don't draw cards. Like, it's a stupid card. They should have never made it. It needs to be banned, in my opinion. The next card I'm going to limit to 1 is the new Turles, the one that you play for 2, pops 2 cards from rest mode, draws a card. Turles is straight value, and as a card is too much. It's too powerful. Killing 2 of your opponent's cards and drawing a card for 2 energy and getting a double striker that's like 20k is ridiculous. So, no. Okay? No. To like talk about how powerful this is, it's only 1 more energy than SS3 Thwarting. It's not unique, which means you can play multiples in a turn, and you're going to be able to pop 2 cards instead. So you're removing 2 cards instead of 1. You're still drawing that card, whereas the only deck that allows you to draw off of Thwarting is Gogeta Xeno. That's how powerful Release is. That card should be addressed on the ban list before Thwarting should, and that is saying something. The next card I have on the ban list is Power of a Super Saiyan. This card should either be limited to 1 or banned. The reason I say that is because Power of a Super Saiyan has a lot of unintended defensive interaction that is stupid. It's first off, it is a straight negate, which is one thing, right? But like, it's never played as a negate. Like, hardly ever. 9 out of 10 times that card is an activate battle, rest your Unison, or rest a battle card, and I'm going to draw a card, and it costs me nothing. Like, no. You don't get free cards that just rest my Unison or a battle card, and you drew a card to replace it. It's stupid. I don't care what its limitations are. That card's 1 interaction alone is stupid, because you can still negate with every other copy in your hand, and it's still going to be a draw. No. Absolutely not. The last card for yellow that needs to be banned is Poutine. Yeah, Poutine needs to be banned. It just does. Poutine is too powerful of a card. It literally just comes to the board and sits there and says the first play you do, or the first activated effect, is that card's either going to be played in rest mode or some other nonsense. The only way they can make Poutine fair is if it didn't affect keyword skills. If your opponent plays a battle card off an effect using a non-keyword skill. If they added that text, it would be a way fairer card. But it's not, and because it's not, it's broken. If this card also didn't have barrier, that would be more fair. They errated barrier off the card because then you could interact with it. And then the other thing is this. If you have that Slug on the board and Poutine, like, there's your bond. I'm not drawing cards, and the first card that I play every single turn off an effect, or if I play a card off an effect, or if I activate counter during my turn, I have to rest a card. It's ridiculous. This interaction with this card is nonsense. Every other color effect-like thing with that has its colors like nested in red or blue or whatever, it's banned. Why does this thing exist? It shouldn't exist. It should be banned. So, SCRs, nothing really on this list that I want banned. I don't see any unintended terrible interactions coming out. They would have had a very terrible interaction, but Bandai thought ahead with the new red Goku that could evolve into Victory Strike. If it didn't have the clause on it that it did, so I'm glad that they had the foresight on that. I don't think there's any like other pressing unisons or anything that I find overtly broken, although Bardock Paternal Unison, depending on how powerful Green Brawly, that might need to be looked at, because a card's kind of a ridiculous card. Dropping a card from your opponent's combo is really ridiculous. Getting rid of a 1-drop, making your opponent discard a card for that's ridiculous, and its minus ability is kind of insane. So let's do that. Only other honorable mention on here that I put is Vegeta Unison of Fury. I know I'm gutting yellow, and I'm not saying this because Icarus won Worlds or anything like that, but Vegeta Unison of Fury as a Floodgate card is a very hard card to deal with. Unlike other effects in the game, you just have to like realize this. Of all the Floodgate effects that like prevent other decks from like playing big battle cards and having that as a strategy above their energy, which to a lot of people seems stupid. Like, you're playing a 6-drop for 1 and it's 25k double strike and warps a card and you drew a card. So like, quit whining that I have an ability to flood it. But the thing is with Floodgate effects, like any of the ones besides like Poutine that I've mentioned on this list, all of them. Oh, and Koitsukai. I'm sorry, and Koitsukai. Forgot to give the honorable mention of a card that literally deletes an entire mechanic out of existence. But like when you talk about and discuss like Vegeta Unison of Fury, the issue is that I have to have cards in my deck specifically teched to attack at it. Otherwise, I've lost. Because the strategies that would play this can be not only hyper aggressive, they can play super big and powerful battle cards, and it's ridiculous. It's just kind of ridiculous. Yellow used to have a problem defensively, and now yellow has like the cheapest, most affordable, if not free, and some of the best defensive cards the game has, and it's not close. Honorable mention that's not on this, but it ties to Vegeta Unison of Fury because it's in yellow, is Robotic Riposte. I like Robotic Riposte as a card because, like any of the topo effects or anything like it, it's susceptible to counter. It's susceptible to what it's susceptible to, right? But the thing is like when you pair this card with Robotic Riposte, Unison of Fury with Robotic Riposte, and Poutine, it starts to get overwhelmingly degenerate. Especially when Power of the Super Saiyans are being activated for free like hotcakes. And it's really stupid. You have too many barrier cards that are just resting nonsense that just die to Turles, and like you're drawing cards like the whole stinking time you're doing it. Like way too powerful. Way too powerful. Like when in Golden Frieza, when you commit a cantrip and then you like sack it off to like draw a card and untap an energy, the only thing you did was like plus a card. You plus the card, but that's it. The card you put on the board is gone, and if you want to use this energy again, you're not really getting it back without playing like a blue splash with Senzu Bean. But the thing is, with all the yellow cards that I'm talking about, they can be played in any of the other yellow decks that I'm talking about. Okay, so their power is still going to be just as powerful here in Icarus as it is somewhere else. So by not addressing them, we're not doing anything about the problem. We are just literally allowing it to continue. We're going to pick up all these really good generic cards and just set them over here in this deck now because we can't, right? And as this ties to Vegeta Unison of Fury, decks that would normally be able to challenge these cards on curve generally play cards that are battle cards that are above their energy. And think about this. This is a common strategy that lots of decks like to play. You know, you think about the SS4 Bardock leader. You know, I like that leader for a lot of reasons, right? It has a paragraph of text on its awakened side, which means it's good. Anytime you have like 5 effects, 4 effects, 5 effects, 3 effects, like you're doing good, right? But the issue with all of these yellow cards is just remove Icarus, slap in the next leader, and they're all equally as playable in it. And that's not okay. And I just really despise the fact that yellow can just tap out and just be completely fine, or go down to 1 energy and just play Robotic Riposte. Now I'm just going to negate with a blocker, produce a blocker. I'm going to negate again and produce a blocker. You pass your turn or you tapped out. Okay, good. Now time to like clap back and kill you. Like, it's ridiculous. And so in Vegeta Unison of Fury is a floodgate that is unlike any of the others. So like Heroic Prospect Trunks, for example, it stops for the turn. And it's only as many copies as they have. You see one Vegeta Unison of Fury and you can protect it. And for the rest of the game, you don't need to see another one. But as long as that effect is live, those decks are getting shut out. And I'm not okay with that. I think that Vegeta Unison of Fury is a stupid card. And then its minus ability is actually broken. Being a 20k dual attack, double strike card is not okay. Not okay. So, Those are my thoughts on the ban list. On those are cards I would hit. I think Icarus, I know I was really critical of the cards in Icarus on this, but I'm critical of just these hyper generic, really great cards. I think I'm very fair to like everything. Like red's kind of the worst color right now, and I'm still wanting to take away Champa and like the Piccolo Junior Unison. Blue is good, but I think that Unison is just too problematic, right? I play blue, and I think that this card needs to be banned, like outright. You can't even leave it at one. Like I play only 2 copies in Soul Striker, and if I see one, my defense in it is way too powerful. It's way too powerful. Between Hatch, Boo Unison, Dimension Magic, Boo Unison just carrying, Trunks, any of my other negates, just too ridiculous. So, and green needs like slapped out of existence. It's just too many generically good discard cards. Like I'm okay with like the Boo negate because you have to pitch a card and then I have to decide whether or not I can either swing through and potentially push, or I could, you have to, like I said, you have to pitch a card, so you have to like regenerate that advantage somehow, or I could just stop and then like play my defensive game, and then we have this interaction, and that's the same thing with like Trunks. Like that's what makes our prospects like kind of bad in a way, because like yeah, you have it, and you have to like have a specific type of deck, I guess, that really like optimizes Trunks, and you have to be playing against that deck. Otherwise, it's terrible. And so, not a fan. Just really not a fan. You know what I mean? I think like if you did these addresses to yellow, like I don't think Lord Slug is banning it. Too many people would cry. Turles, I think that it's just too powerful of a card. And I know it's new, so they're probably not going to hit it, but like it's that powerful. Okay. Power of a Super Saiyan's been around long enough. That card needs to just be gone. And Poutine, no. There's no argument I'm going to hear that Poutine's fair. None. Especially when Power of a Super Saiyan exists. There's no argument you can make that that card's fair. With all of the cards that yellow has to rest your cards, no. No. You're not getting a free general that just sits on the board and is a nuisance the entire game. Not in my opinion. Deserves to be banned. And Vegeta Unison of Fury is just like the icing on the cake, because that card just solo won Worlds. There's no other way to say it. That one card is the only reason why Juan Soto didn't have a fighting chance against the deck that drew 900 cards. So, and I'm not saying that because I want Gogeta Xeno to be broken, or Dark Brawly to be broken, or like yellow to not have a floodgate. But unlike Violent Rays, Heroic Prospects, black doesn't have one. And green kind of has like Dormant. Oh, it has Big and More. Yeah, Big and More. Right? Unlike any of those cards, they are all one and done. But this one, you have to address it. Otherwise, it's just a menace to certain strategies that like to play tall. So, yeah. That's pretty much it for my Banlist discussion. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Look forward to a deck profile coming this week of whatever I play at the tournament. I'm probably going to do a report even if I do terribly. So, yeah. Hopefully I don't. But it's my first time playing in 3 weeks at a tournament because, like, I have been really busy with work. So, again, let me know what you guys think about this and your ban list choices that you would like to see on the list. Hopefully you don't say something like egregious like Dark Brawly leader needs banned or something, because I'll just actually shed a tear. You're probably going to get trolled for that comment. And yeah, I don't think any of the other top decks really need touch other than these hits. Like I said, with Gogeta Xeno, I think you should just ban the leader. Like, really? I think you should. And I think it'd be safe too, especially with the Trunks leader coming out, because this will make these cards that are really good be shifted over. And I think that the Gogeta Xenolito being banned is really good. It's a really good thing. It also, I think, solves a lot of the problems. Thwarting becomes a lot less of a more powerful card when you don't draw for playing it on your first turn. So that's it for this, as always, guys, and I will catch you next time. It's Alex from TCG Discussions, signing off. Laters.